Welcome back to GaleForceWins Season 2.
The GaleForceWins podcast is proudly sponsored by Newfound Marketing, a digital marketing agency located in St. John's, Newfoundland. Visit our website at newfoundmarketing.ca to find out how we can help your business grow. Newfound Marketing, a complement to your marketing team.
Well, welcome to another edition of GaleForceWins, and we're on location in a very cool place in Summerside, Prince Edward Island, and it's called the Knot Beach Bar and Rentals, connected to a very cool place called the Humble Barber. Two of these little businesses are thriving right here on the waterfront of Summerside, and this place rents paddleboards, and it's kind of topical given the conversation that we're about to enter into. And I've always said before that it's always worth the drive to Summerside because there's some very interesting things happening out there. I'm Alan Dale, and with me as always, my good buddy from the East End of St. John's, Jerry Carew. How are you, Jerry?
Doing well. You know, I'm a little sad. This is our last interview in Summerside, so it's been a whirlwind here in PEI where Alan lives. But I'm really interested in this gentleman sitting in front of us, so let's start.
Yeah, and we're not going to give away any secrets here about what went down here over the last 12 days with this this fella here. But Doug, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Doug Russell. I'm originally from Hamilton, Ontario. Currently I live in Ottawa. I've been out in PEI for the last 12 days doing a paddleboard, but about me, born and raised in Ontario, still live there. Lived kind of all over the country. I'm a military officer, so did the majority of my service out in Edmonton, Alberta, but now I work and reside in Ottawa, and yeah, that's it.
Doug, what was it like growing up in the Hammer? Brothers, sisters, mom, dad, what was everybody involved in?
Yeah, so mom's a dietitian, dad's a car salesman. My brother, I have one older brother, and he's a teacher,
Okay.
grade school teacher.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Pretty typical Hamilton upbringing?
I think so. My family, my grandfather worked in steel, so yeah.
Yes.
We're tied into the steel business, yeah.
Right into the steel town.
Yeah.
Tell us about Hamilton as a kid. What was it like?
I don't know. It's I kind of couldn't wait to leave. You
Is that
know,
right?
yeah. So when I joined the military, I was really looking forward to getting out and seeing some other places, and yeah. So when I went to university, I went to the Royal Military College in Kingston, Ontario, and yeah.
How old were you when you went into RMC?
19.
19 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that experience, walking through the doors.
Oh, it was, I do have family that have been in the military before, but it was an experience like I had never had before. It was completely new, completely novel. Yeah. I would say it was kind of a formative experience, and from there I kind of never looked back. It was great opportunity. Did
you connect with it right away, Doug?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had worked prior to joining the military as in Algonquin Park as a canoe trip guide and camp counselor.
Yeah.
So they kind of did the natural recruiting thing and said, "You like camping? You should join the infantry." And then yeah, that kind of connected me into that side of things.
That's a different kind of camping, though.
Very different kind of camping. It's not really camping.
It's not really. Yeah. That's work.
Yeah.
The infantry. So yeah, what did you study at RMC?
I was a history major.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And good program there at RMC for history?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about it. What was it like?
So history, the focus of my degree was military history, which is something that I'm very interested in, and they have a lot of great resources. Some of the profs are actually military officers, so yeah, it's great.
Wow. And so I bet going through that program so many years ago, you're probably still mates with a lot of those people?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
You're coming through RMC. It's a bit of a bonding experience.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. So while I was getting ready to do this trip that we'll talk about in PEI, a lot of my old mates from RMC reached out to me, and on Canada Day, as we were paddling past Big Point, PEI, we got hosted for an hour by a person that I was in RMC with, and I hadn't seen since RMC.
You're kidding me.
No, so it was, and they, I said no to a lot of engagements because they were said, paddle into this bay, we'll have a thing, and we'll feed you. And I said, if it's more kilometers, I'm not interested. But this was right on the ocean. We just took our boards out, walked up, ate, got back on, kept going.
So Doug, tell me about that. So you find yourself paddling by your buddy's house that you went to university with, hadn't seen him in 20 years.
Yeah.
You roll in on your paddleboard. What was that reunion like for you?
It was fantastic. It was like we had never missed a beat. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I want to pick up on that for a second. Jerry and I had both spent time in the military as well. We were in the Navy, and that's not like camping. We were in the Navy, and it is like that when you get into a conversation with somebody that you've done something with so many years ago. It's like you never left.
Yeah.
Explain that to me. Why is that? Why do you think that is?
I think you just share so much common experience going through a program like the military college that it's natural to pick up where you left off because there's so many commonalities in your prior experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a bond, really, isn't it? It's I don't know. There's something special about it. I find that I'm very connected to folks that I had done things with over the course of time. And it's an amazing feeling when you can just pick up from where you left off.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting way to do it, to paddleboard in and there's your mate's place right there.
Oh yeah.
Good dinner.
Great dinner.
And then you picked up and went on again.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I said I hate to do this, but I'm gonna eat and run because we were heading out. We were going Big Point to Point Prim, and we still had like 12 kilometers to do, and it was 6 p.m. And I said we gotta go here. So I didn't even do the dishes. I didn't even help. I was no help. I charged my electronics, I fed, and then I was gone. Yeah.
They must have been glad to see you.
Yeah.
Now, we skirted around the issue a little bit, but tell us exactly why you're here in PEI, what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, so I am here. About 6 months ago, I started planning to paddle my stand-up paddleboard around the island. I was planning on doing it initially solo, and to my knowledge, it hadn't been done. It had been done in only a kayak. So I was very interested in kind of pushing myself and, and experiencing PEI because I know it's a beautiful spot. And I knew it was going to be the adventure of a lifetime. So that was what kind of got me the initial hook. And on the map, it's about 600 kilometers, but as you go and cut off bays and you go kind of cape to cape in some spots, you can save distance. So yeah, it was at the all said and done 553 kilometers. So yeah, this whole thing, I started planning it about 6 months ago. That's when I committed to it, and I partnered with Soldier On Canada, which is a charitable organization that focuses on supporting ill and injured veterans. And I said, hey, if I do this, I really want to raise money for something that I care about. So they set up a donation page for me. They helped me, kind of get the word out through their networks. And yeah, I kind of set a fundraising goal and said, we're gonna do this. And yeah, it's.
How'd you make out with your fundraising goal?
So fundraising goal is at 15,000, and right now I just checked the site. We're almost at 13,000 raised. Okay. So yeah, it's been phenomenal.
That's fantastic, Doug.
Yeah.
Amazing. Can you tell us just a little bit about the paddleboard? I'm sure anyone watching this is trying to visualize how would you do this? Mm-hmm. How did you navigate the water, which is not very flat, calm? Talk a little bit about how you did it.
Absolutely. So I had a little bit of experience in multi-day paddleboarding before. We went all the way around Algonquin Park. It took us it was 420K. Took us 8 days, but it kind of taught me how to pack. So when you're thinking about a paddleboard, you don't have very much room. you have a little bit of room in front of you and a little bit of room behind.
Yeah.
And you don't have a lot of weight, because the more weight you put on the board's going to sink and you're going to create more drag, and you're going to be upset when you go out and try and do long distances. So yeah, basically I had all my sleeping gear and my food and my cooking behind me, and I had everything I needed for the day in front of me. So the bag behind me was about, I would say 50 pounds, and the bag in front of me was about 25 pounds, and it had sunscreen, bug juice, my meals for the day, water for the day, that kind of stuff. So yeah, everything that you need at night behind, everything you need during the day in front, and that's it.
Okay, Doug, you made that sound pretty easy.
Yeah.
I could see him bending over to get a sandwich. I would fall in. Right?
You made that sound pretty easy, front, back.
Yeah.
Okay, but Doug, take us through the logistics of day by day. Like, when would you stop? How long would you stop for? How would you eat? Where would you sleep at night?
Okay.
Those type things.
Okay. So I would say we, because I was joined by one of my, another RCAF, or Canadian Air Force veteran, a fellow named Colin Hudson.
Okay.
So he joined me. So what a typical day would look like while we were out would be, we'd wake up at 5, make breakfast, which was very kind of a light breakfast, so a couple packs of oatmeal.
Are you on the beach at this point, or where are you?
We're on the beach, so yeah, we pull in at night to to sleep. So we do breakfast, we kind of strike camp, pack up everything, and we're usually on the water between 6 and 6:30. And then a normal day is we kind of have a very strict regimen of paddling to break ratio. So because it's easy to kind of lose yourself and just keep going and going and going. So we would paddle for an hour, take 5-minute break. Paddle for an hour, take 5-minute break. And then around lunch, we'd take about a 20-minute break to eat and hydrate and everything.
So you take a break. Do you sit on the paddleboard, let your feet dangle in the water, or is that a break?
That's a break, yeah.
Okay.
Sit on the paddleboard, feet dangling, so you're kind of cooling off a little bit.
Take a dip at all? Ever take a dip in and come back?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we had a couple of days that it was really, really hot. It was pushing 30 degrees, so we would jump in, get out. Yeah.
So when you get in, I'm picturing on the paddleboard, you got the night behind, the day in front, and how do you not flip the paddleboard over getting on it? Like, is it as big as one of these things here?
No.
No?
It's, well, I think this one's probably a little bit wider.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful getting back on board.
You got to be careful.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not just.
I'd be a half hour trying to get back on board.
You take that 5-minute break, you go for a dip, you cool down, as you say. Lunchtime, you stop, you eat a sandwich or something. What do you have for lunch?
So typically, the way our meals were set up was breakfast was coffee and oatmeal.
Yeah.
So a large amount of oatmeal. And then throughout the day, it was just kind of like snacks. So Cliff Bars and trail mix and, all kinds of different snacks just to kind of keep the calories going in.
Right.
So we didn't have a set lunch. So we were eating every hour all day long. And then dinner was a dehydrated meal. So that keeps your weight down again. So we're not packing a lot of fresh ingredients on this. Yeah.
So a dehydrated meal, you stop, and that's where you're going to camp for the night. Then you have your meal, go to bed.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. So you 12 days, you and your mate? Mm-hmm. Did you guys know each other well before you started this?
I wouldn't say super well. He's lives on the island. He lives in Summerside, and when I committed to this, he reached out to me and said, "Would you mind if I came out and paddled like one or a couple of days with you? Because I'd like to paddle around the island too." I said, "No problem." And then about 2 weeks prior, he said, "Good news, I'm going to do the whole thing with you." I said, "Well, that's a surprise." So it was good.
Yeah.
It was.
So you didn't know each other well when you started. I mean, you obviously knew each other.
Yeah.
But after the end of it, you must have known each other very well.
Very well. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got a bond with this fella now.
Oh,
I don't know if I
absolutely.
could spend 12 days with a fella in the Air Force.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. I'm only joking with you.
Yeah.
But, well, that's great, though. So you paddle together. When you come in at night, I mean, it must be a wonderful feeling to see that accomplishment behind you, or are you just focused on let's get to the next day, or are you enjoying the moment as you go?
I was really trying to, but sometimes you're so focused on getting to the next step that I think, sometimes when you really stop and smell the roses, maybe you miss an opportunity to do another 5 kilometers. So we were more on the side of let's get the more 5 kilometers, because in the back of my mind always was wind and weather that was going to prevent us from paddling on a day or 2 days, or having a window where we couldn't go.
Yeah.
So we would usually come off the water at I would say around 8:30. Between 8:30 and 9, and so the sun's really setting at this point. You got about half an hour of daylight left, and then we usually kind of camped on the beaches that we'd land on, or wherever. We had some of the most beautiful camp spots I could ever imagine.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You pull in, it must be spectacular.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of the other interesting things you saw on this 12-day voyage.
So I would say one of the great things that we got to experience was all the marine life. We saw huge amount of marine life, eagles. We got escorted by porpoises often. So when we were coming into Surrey, it was pretty late at night. It was about 8:30, and we just had probably 4 porpoises that were about 10-20 meters off our board, and they were just kind of circling, and
jeez,
they were all the way in. They swam with us. We had seals all the time following us, being curious, just checking us out. Yeah, it was really great. So the marine life was phenomenal, and Colin didn't love all the fishing boats, but I really did, because the lobster season was going on. So I enjoyed seeing all them kind of motoring around and picking up their traps, and it was interesting.
Now, these lobster fishermen would have been as curious about you as the porpoises.
Yeah, we got some close passes, because I'm sure when you see someone 2 kilometers offshore just standing there, it looks odd to a boater,
right,
who probably hasn't seen someone that far offshore.
Right. Standing up.
Standing up, yeah. So,
Doug, tell me about, I want to talk a little bit about the porpoises taking you into Surrey Harbor. Had you ever experienced that before as a paddleboarder?
No.
What was that like for you? Did you feel a connection there with those animals? It must have been pretty surreal.
Yeah, absolutely. It was completely surreal. So the sun was setting. It was picturesque, and to have these porpoises kind of like alongside, and it was kind of like we were in a little bit of a formation, and yeah.
And they're just watching you, and you're watching them, and it's like nature.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
And into Surrey Harbor, so 12 days in total. And you don't think anybody's done this before?
I don't think anyone's paddled around continuously the island. So.
And what kind of response did you get? Was anybody curious, talking to you about it, or were you just quietly going about your business?
We were as quiet as possible while raising money, because there was I knew there was a good chance that we could get stop somewhere, not be able to finish. Yeah. In my mind, I knew I had 18 days before, my wife is flying in, and I have to get this thing knocked out in 18 days because she's flying in, and then we start our real summer vacation. So yeah, that was always kind of playing in the back of my mind. Yeah.
And so now, okay, you've got this behind you, quite an accomplishment. You're still in the mode of fundraising to hit your goal. When does your fundraising end? When does that end?
So we're going to end the fundraising in a week.
In 1 week.
And there's actually the board that I was on is made by Red Paddle Company, which is not PEI. A bunch of people ask me that because PEI is associated with Red. Donated by Red Paddle, and they actually donated it for the purposes of the fundraiser. So anyone who donates over $100 gets their name entered to win the board that I paddled around the island on. Wow. So yeah, it was new when I started. So I said I made the kind of joke on my social media that it's barely broken in now. Right. So yeah.
Who makes it? Where is it made?
So it's a U.S. company.
U.S. company.
Yeah.
And they make a good product?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Is that right?
I didn't have any problems with it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went further than most.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Well, what a journey that was, and certainly we'll promote it in our social media challenge to help you get to that goal. Pretty honorable cause. Tell me what the charity means to you.
Okay, so I've been in the military for 20 years. I know a lot of my friends and people that are close to me that have suffered from service-related injuries, and I look at an organization like Soldier On, and it's just, they are dedicated to helping service members work through and persevere and commit and succeed on their road to recovery for physical and mental injury. So I will do what I can to support them, because they do their best to support people like me and people like other people in uniform. So yeah, that's why I committed to raising money for Soldier On, and this is actually the second time we've done it. The first time we did it was for a different paddle expedition, and we raised about $5,000 for Soldier On. So now we've doubled that plus more, and yeah, we're on our way to almost tripling it. So.
That's fantastic. Great charity, a great thing to do. Clearly, you're having an enjoyable life. You're not afraid of these challenges, and you're certainly living in the moment. What's over the horizon for you now? What's next? If I could use the horizon as a term.
Yeah, the horizon's a long way away on a paddleboard.
You saw a lot of horizons.
I saw a lot of horizons. Yeah, I'm not too sure. What's directly over my horizon is I'm going to try and get some rest from this trip and enjoy my summer vacation, and yeah, we'll see what's next. I like to do kind of a trip a year, so I'm cooking up something, but yeah, I'm not gonna start talking about it just yet.
At the end of each day, how tired were you after doing that? What you just explained, you must have been exhausted, were you?
So our average distance that we traveled each day was about 46 kilometers on the water. And I would say we would be tired, but my fatigue was, I only really experienced fatigue in my feet and hands. Okay. Yeah.
Not mental fatigue.
I didn't have any mental fatigue. Sometimes I wouldn't get a great sleep, so I think the sleep would affect me a little bit. Yeah. So that would be like more sleep fatigue, but physical fatigue, not really.
What do you think the lack of sleep was because it was just you were so alive, what you experienced during the day with porpoises, and
yeah,
would that be it, or are you thinking about the next day?
I think it's thinking about the next day, and because you're on something so small and you're on an environment that's so big and so committing and so severe, that it's you feel very exposed, and I think when your mind wraps around those kind of concepts, you don't sleep very, very soundly. So yeah. I had a great sleep last night, though. Yeah.
Doug, when did you finish the journey?
We finished yesterday, just over behind me at Linkletter Park, right around 7:30 at night.
7:30. So you had a little bit of a rest last night, and you came over to do this interview.
Yep.
That's fantastic. We certainly appreciate that. We always ask our guests on GaleForceWins, people that have had an interesting journey in life, and you've had that, but you've also had a very interesting journey in the last 12 days, to leave our audience with a piece of advice. What might that be? Yeah,
I think the reason why I love paddleboarding so much is because it forces you to be extremely present. The minute your mind starts to get distracted and go to other things, you lose your balance, you lose your connection with the environment, and I think that's my piece of advice for the audience would be find out whatever that is for you, and just do it more, because that's paddleboarding for me. I find it meditative. I find it very hyper connecting to the present, and yeah, I love it. So, share your thoughts.
Well, I got a question. First of all, before I final my thoughts, how can someone donate? I don't think we went into that right now. How can they get you to your $15,000 goal.
Yeah, so I have a link to the donation page.
Yep.
So if we could potentially share that through your social media outlet, that would be
Sure.
that would
What's
be the
that page?
mechanism. It's kind of got a bizarre name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not.
All right, we'll get it from you and we'll post it up. Yeah.
Post it up for sure. So your thoughts?
Well, I just want to say thank you for, first of all, your service, but secondarily, thank you for what you're doing for Soldier On. Not everybody would take on what you took on. I think about some of the adventures Alan, you and I have been on in our lives. We've never done anything like this. Congratulations for doing it, and thank you for raising that money.
Doug, that was a great conversation for sure. So happy to have you on GaleForceWins. This podcast is all about inspiring people, telling people stories, people who have done interesting things, are doing interesting things, so that you can go on to inspire other people to take positive action. I love how you talked about paddleboarding being your form of meditation, being in the present, in the moment. That's so fantastic. And you're right. People find what that is for them and do more of it, we're probably going to be in a pretty good space.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate your time here today, and we'll certainly get your fundraising front and center through our social media channels, and wish you the best of luck on reaching that goal. You've already done exceptionally well. Thanks for choosing Prince Edward Island, Atlantic Canada, to be a part of this. We're certainly happy as Atlantic Canadians that you chose us to do that, and it makes us feel pretty proud as well. And I like to leave the podcast with my own piece of advice, and quite correctly, the world needs more guys like Doug. Thanks, Doug.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in to GaleForceWins. That's GaleForceWins, WINS.com.